On the morning of October 3rd, 1999, beneath the soft autumn light filtering through the traditional shoji screens of his Tokyo estate, Akio Morita took his final breath. The 78-year-old co-founder of Sony Corporation lay peacefully in the bedroom of the magnificent mansion he had built to celebrate Japan's post-war technological renaissance, surrounded by the quiet elegance that had defined both his home and his revolutionary approach to business. The gentle rain that fell that morning seemed fitting for a man who had spent his life harmonizing Eastern tradition with Western innovation. Morita had been battling the effects of a stroke for 6 years, his once vibrant mind gradually fading like the last notes of a perfectly engineered Sony stereo system. Yet even in decline, he remained in the home that stood as perhaps the most sophisticated monument to Japan's economic miracle. A sprawling compound in Tokyo's exclusive Shibuya district that seamlessly blended classical Japanese architecture with cutting-edge technology. The estate at 1225 Shibuya represented everything Morita had achieved during his extraordinary life. Built in 1975 at the height of Sony's global dominance, the mansion sprawled across nearly 2 acres of Tokyo's most expensive real estate, its value exceeding $50 million even by 1970s standards. Behind its traditional cedar gates lay a world where ancient tea ceremony rooms sat alongside state-of-the-art recording studios, where carefully manicured gardens provided serenity, while hidden beneath the grounds ran cables, connecting the most advanced home entertainment system ever conceived. But on this quiet October morning, as the autumn leaves drifted past windows that had witnessed Sony's greatest triumphs and most painful setbacks, the mansion felt different. The man who had insisted that technology should serve beauty, not dominate it, lay still in the room where he had dreamed of making Sony a global household name. Outside, Tokyo hummed with the digital energy he had helped create, Walkmans playing on subway platforms, Trinitron televisions glowing in apartment windows, PlayStation consoles entertaining children whose parents had grown up with Sony's innovation. Yet inside the estate's peaceful walls, an era was ending as quietly as it had begun in a small sake brewery in southern Japan 7 decades earlier. But to understand how death came to this place of such remarkable achievement, we must travel back to 1921 and a traditional family business that seemed destined for obscurity rather than global revolution. Chapter 1: Humble Beginnings. The story of the Tokyo estate begins not with corporate boardrooms or technological breakthroughs, but with the scent of fermenting rice and the ancient rhythms of sake production in Nagoya. On January 26, 1921, Akio Morita was born into the 15th generation of the Morita family to manage their traditional sake and soy sauce brewery, a business that had operated continuously for over 3 centuries. His father, Kuziman Morita XIV, expected his eldest son to follow the path carved by 14 previous generations, to learn the delicate art of fermentation, to maintain relationships with local distributors, and eventually to become Kuziman XV, guardian of a family legacy that predated Japan's isolation from the Western world. The Morita family compound in Nagoya, where young Akio spent his childhood, reflected the conservative prosperity of traditional Japanese merchants. Built around central courtyards with carefully maintained gardens, the wooden buildings had housed generations of Moritas who found fulfillment in perfecting ancient recipes and maintaining harmonious relationships within their community. The family business, Morita and Company, had survived famines, wars, and economic upheavals by adhering to principles that Akio's great-great-grandfather had inscribed on wooden plaques throughout their home: patience, quality, and respect for tradition. Yet from his earliest memories, young Akio displayed a restless curiosity that seemed incompatible with the measured pace of sake production. While his younger brothers showed proper interest in learning the brewery's time-honored methods, Akio spent hours dismantling mechanical toys, studying how Western clockwork functioned, and asking questions about the gramophone records that occasionally made their way to Nagoya from Tokyo's international districts. His childhood was marked by a defining moment that occurred when he was 8 years old, discovering his father's hidden collection of Western classical music recordings, which Kyuziman listened to in secret, fearing that his conservative customers might disapprove of such foreign influences. This early exposure to recorded music planted seeds that would eventually flower into revolution. While learning the traditional skills expected of a brewery heir, how to judge rice quality by touch, how to maintain optimal fermentation temperatures, how to negotiate with suppliers using the elaborate courtesy protocols that govern Japanese business relationships, Akio found himself increasingly fascinated by questions that had nothing to do with sake production. How did sound waves become grooves on a disc? Why did some recording equipment produce cleaner sound than others? Could Japanese engineering improve upon Western audio technology? For young Morita, these years were marked by a growing tension between family duty and personal passion. His father, recognizing his son's unusual interests, made a decision that would prove crucial to Sony's eventual creation. Rather than forcing Akio to abandon his technological curiosities, Kyuziman arranged for his son to receive a rigorous education that included both traditional business training and modern scientific principles. This balanced approach, honoring the past while embracing the future, would become the philosophical foundation for everything Akio later built. The defining moment came during Akio's teenage years when he successfully modified a broken gramophone, improving its sound quality using techniques he had devised through careful experimentation. His father, listening to the enhanced recordings in their private quarters, realized that his eldest son possessed a rare combination of technical genius and aesthetic sensitivity. Rather than viewing this as a threat to family tradition, Kyuziman began to envision a future where Morita family principles, patience, quality, respect, might be applied to entirely new endeavors. By the time Akio entered Osaka Imperial University to study physics, he had discovered something that would change the trajectory of his life forever: electronics. In university laboratories, surrounded by vacuum tubes and primitive recording equipment, he found his true calling. Here was technology that could capture and reproduce the beauty of sound, that could preserve human voice and music with a fidelity that previous generations could never have imagined. More importantly, he recognized that Japanese engineering, with its traditional emphasis on precision and miniaturization, could revolutionize an industry currently dominated by bulky, inefficient Western equipment. But this was only the beginning. By 1946, when Akio made the decision that would lead to Sony's creation, his life would transform in ways he could never have imagined while listening to hidden gramophone records in his family's traditional compound. Chapter 2: Sony Rising. By 1946, Akio Morita's life had transformed beyond recognition from his traditional sake-brewing origins. The devastation of World War II had shattered Japan's industrial infrastructure, but within that destruction lay unprecedented opportunity for visionary entrepreneurs willing to rebuild their nation from the ground up. At 25, Morita made the decision that would define his destiny. He would abandon the family brewery business to partner with electronics genius Masaru Ibuka in creating a company dedicated to making Japanese technology globally competitive. The partnership between Morita and Ibuka represented a perfect fusion of complementary talents. Ibuka possessed the technical brilliance to conceive revolutionary products, while Morita brought business acumen, international perspective, and most crucially, the vision to transform innovative engineering into global commercial success. Their first workshop, located in a bombed-out department store building in Tokyo's Shibuya district, employed just 8 people and specialized in repairing damaged radios for Japan's reconstruction effort. Yet even in these humble circumstances, Morita displayed the strategic thinking that would eventually build Sony into a multinational corporation. Their breakthrough came in 1950 when the newly formed Tokyo Telecommunications Engineering Corporation, later renamed Sony, produced Japan's first magnetic tape recorder. While American companies had developed the basic technology, Morita and Ibuka recognized that Japanese precision manufacturing could create superior products at competitive prices. The Type G tape recorder, weighing 35 kilograms and costing 170,000 yen, equivalent to a teacher's annual salary, initially found few customers in devastated post-war Japan. However, Morita's marketing genius transformed apparent failure into the foundation for global expansion. Rather than accepting defeat in the consumer market, Morita repositioned the tape recorder as professional equipment for courts, schools, and radio stations. By 1952, their innovative approach to market development had generated sufficient revenue to expand production and begin research into miniaturization technologies that would later revolutionize portable electronics. The success of their early tape recorders demonstrated Morita's fundamental business philosophy. Superior engineering combined with creative marketing could overcome any initial commercial obstacles. The transformation of Tokyo Telecommunications into Sony Corporation in 1958 marked the beginning of Morita's emergence as a global business leader. The name Sony, derived from the Latin word sonus, meaning sound, reflected Morita's vision of creating a brand that would be instantly recognizable worldwide. This decision to abandon traditional Japanese naming conventions in favor of international appeal represented a radical departure from conventional wisdom, but it perfectly exemplified Morita's ability to balance respect for Japanese values with aggressive global ambition. Throughout the 1950s, Morita's personal life reflected his growing success in the electronics industry. In 1952, he married Yoshiko Kame, daughter of a prominent Tokyo family, in a ceremony that combined traditional Japanese customs with modern international elements. Their wedding reception, held at Tokyo's Imperial Hotel, featured both sake toasts honoring ancient customs and champagne celebrations embracing Western traditions. This synthesis of Eastern and Western approaches would become the defining characteristic of both Morita's personal style and Sony's corporate culture. By 1955, Sony had achieved its first major international breakthrough with the development of Japan's first transistor radio. While American companies had invented the transistor, Morita recognized that miniaturization technology could create entirely new product categories. The TR-55, Sony's pocket-sized transistor radio, demonstrated that Japanese engineering could not merely copy Western innovations, but actually surpass them in practical applications. Sales exceeded 100,000 units within 2 years, generating the capital necessary for Morita to begin contemplating his most ambitious project yet. The establishment of Sony Corporation of America in 1960 represented Morita's boldest strategic gambit. Rather than relying on distributors or licensing agreements, he insisted on maintaining direct control over Sony's international expansion. This decision required enormous financial risk. The New York office initially operated at a loss for 3 years, but it established the foundation for Sony's eventual domination of global consumer electronics markets. Morita's frequent travels between Tokyo and New York during this period exposed him to American lifestyle patterns that would later inspire the Walkman and other revolutionary products. The peak moment of this era came in 1963, when Sony's stock began trading on the New York Stock Exchange, making it the first Japanese company to achieve this distinction. The ceremony at the stock exchange, attended by Morita and featuring Sony's latest innovations, symbolized Japan's emergence as a serious competitor in high-technology industries. Newspaper coverage described Morita as the man who taught America to take Japanese electronics seriously. a reputation that would soon enable him to realize his ultimate dream, building a estate worthy of Sony's global success. But this was not content with merely being successful. He wanted something more, something that was to the world that Japanese technology and aesthetics had achieved equality with the finest Western accomplishments. And so, in 1970, he turned his attention to creating a home that would embody everything Sony represented: innovation, beauty, and the successful synthesis of East and West. Chapter 3: Estate Build. In 1970, Akio Morita made a decision that would define the rest of his life. He would create an estate that embodied Sony's revolutionary spirit while honoring Japan's architectural heritage. The property he selected in Tokyo's prestigious Shibuya district represented one of the most expensive real estate acquisitions in Japanese history. But for Morita, the cost was irrelevant compared to the symbolic importance of what he intended to build. The search for the perfect location consumed nearly 2 years of careful evaluation. Morita required a site that offered both privacy for his family and accessibility for the international business leaders who would become regular guests. The property he ultimately selected at 1225 Shibuya had belonged to a pre-war aristocratic family whose fortunes had declined following Japan's defeat. The 1.8-acre plot, featuring mature gardens and traditional stone foundations, provided the ideal canvas for Morita's architectural vision while maintaining connection to Japan's cultural past. Architectural planning for the estate required Morita to solve a complex challenge: how to create a residence that functioned simultaneously as a traditional Japanese home and an international business center. He selected architect Kenzo Tange, whose work on the Tokyo Olympic facilities had demonstrated mastery of combining Japanese aesthetics with modern engineering. Together, they developed a design philosophy that would guide every aspect of the mansion's construction. Technology should enhance rather than replace traditional beauty, and innovation should serve human comfort rather than dominate it. Construction began in 1973 with the creation of underground levels that would house Sony's most advanced home entertainment systems. The basement complex, extending 2 levels beneath the main house, featured recording studios equipped with professional-grade equipment, screening rooms with the latest projection technology, and climate-controlled storage for Morita's growing collection of classical music recordings. These technical spaces, invisible from ground level, provided the technological foundation that supported the mansion's serene traditional appearance. The main structure, completed in 1975 after 3 years of meticulous construction, seamlessly integrated traditional Japanese architecture with subtle modern innovation. The exterior featured classic cedar construction with traditional curved rooflines, while the interior incorporated hidden climate control systems, concealed lighting, and acoustic engineering that rivaled professional recording studios. The construction timeline reflected Morita's perfectionist approach. Where typical luxury homes might require 12 to 18 months to complete, the estate demanded 36 months of careful craftsmanship. Materials for the construction came from across Japan and represented the finest examples of traditional craftsmanship available. The exterior cedar, harvested from forests in Kyoto Prefecture, had been aged for over a century before being selected for the estate. Interior tatami mats were hand-woven by masters whose families had served imperial residences, while the marble used in modern bathroom facilities came from quarries that had supplied stone for Kyoto's most prestigious temples. The total construction cost exceeded 800 million yen, equivalent to nearly $15 million in 1975 currency. The unique feature that made Morita's estate truly extraordinary was the integration of Sony's latest audio and visual technology throughout the traditional architecture. Hidden speakers, invisible from casual observation, could fill any room with concert-quality sound, while retractable screens allowed for video presentations, without disrupting the serene aesthetic of traditional Japanese interiors. The master bedroom featured a concealed entertainment system that Morita could operate from his bedside, allowing him to enjoy classical music or review Sony product demonstrations without leaving the comfort of traditional futon bedding. The grounds surrounding the mansion reflected the same careful balance between tradition and innovation. Formal Japanese gardens, designed by master landscape architect Mayuri Shijimori, featured ancient stone arrangements and carefully maintained plantings that had been cultivated for generations. However, hidden beneath these traditional gardens lay advanced irrigation systems, subtle outdoor lighting, and concealed pathways that allowed service access without disrupting the visual harmony of the landscape design. Special attention was paid to the mansion's entertainment facilities, which needed to accommodate both intimate family gatherings and formal international business meetings. The main reception hall could expand from a private family room seating 8 to a formal dining space, accommodating 50 guests through the use of movable walls and modular furniture systems. His flexibility reflected Morita's understanding that his home would serve multiple functions: private residence, business headquarters, and symbol of Japan's technological achievements. The estate's security systems, though invisible to guests, incorporated the most advanced electronic monitoring available in the mid-1970s. Sony's own surveillance technology protected the property while maintaining the appearance of a peaceful traditional residence. Motion sensors hidden among garden sculptures, pressure plates beneath stone pathways, and infrared cameras concealed within traditional architectural elements created comprehensive security coverage without compromising aesthetic integrity. When construction was complete in 1975, Morita had created something unprecedented in Japan: a residence that functioned as both a traditional family home and a showcase for Japanese technological achievement. The mansion's 15,000 square feet contained 12 bedrooms, 8 bathrooms, multiple entertainment spaces, and technical facilities that rivaled professional recording studios, all seamlessly integrated within an architectural design that honored Japan's aesthetic heritage. But a house is just architecture and technology. What made the Shibuya estate legendary was not its traditional beauty or hidden innovation, but what happened within its walls during the golden years when Sony's influence reached its peak and Morita's vision of Japanese global leadership became reality. Chapter 4: Golden Years. For 15 extraordinary years, from 1975 to 1990, the Shibuya estate became the epicenter of Japan's technological and cultural influence on the global stage. The mansion that Akio Morita had envisioned as a symbol of Japanese achievement transformed into something far more significant: the informal headquarters where East met West, where billion-dollar business deals were negotiated over traditional tea ceremonies, and where the future of global entertainment technology was shaped through conversations that seamlessly blended ancient protocol with revolutionary innovation. Family life at the estate reflected Morita's success in balancing traditional Japanese values with international sophistication. Yoshiko Morita, his wife of 23 years, had transformed from the daughter of a Tokyo merchant family into one of Japan's most accomplished hostesses, capable of entertaining international dignitaries while maintaining the serene domestic atmosphere essential for raising their 3 children. Their eldest son, Hideo, grew up in an environment where breakfast conversations might include discussions of classical music theory, Sony's latest product development, and the cultural differences between American and European business practices. Daily routines at the estate followed patterns that Morita had refined over years of international travel and business success. Each morning began with traditional tea ceremony in the mansion's eastern pavilion, where Morita would review international newspapers while enjoying the precise ritual that connected him to centuries of Japanese cultural tradition. Breakfast was served in the Western-style dining room, featuring both Japanese and international cuisine prepared by a chef trained in European techniques, but respectful of Japanese seasonal traditions. These morning hours, before Sony's demanding schedule claimed his attention, provided the peaceful foundation that enabled Morita to maintain his legendary composure during the most stressful business negotiations. The entertainment that made the estate famous throughout Tokyo's international community reflected Morita's genius for creating environments where serious business could be conducted within culturally enriching settings. Monthly soirees, typically held on Saturday evenings, brought together an extraordinary mix of guests: Hollywood executives seeking to understand Japanese electronics markets, European classical musicians curious about Sony's recording technology, American technology journalists eager to preview Sony's latest innovations, and Japanese government officials interested in promoting international cultural exchange. One particular evening in March 1982 exemplified the magical atmosphere that Morita created within his estate. To celebrate the 10th anniversary of the Walkman's commercial success, he hosted a party that brought together over 60 guests representing the global entertainment industry. The evening began with a traditional kaiseki dinner served in the mansion's formal dining room, featuring seasonal delicacies prepared according to centuries-old recipes. Following dinner, guests moved to the music room where renowned pianist Vladimir Ashkenazy performed Chopin's Piano Concerto No. 1, using Sony's latest digital recording equipment to capture the performance for later commercial release. What made that evening legendary was not merely the celebrity guest list or the exquisite setting, but the way Morita seamlessly integrated business innovation with cultural celebration. As Ashkenazy played, guests could listen through prototype headphones that would later become the Walkman Professional Series, experiencing firsthand how Sony's engineering could enhance artistic appreciation. The evening concluded with impromptu discussions where musicians, engineers, and business executives shared ideas that would influence Sony's product development for the next decade. Morita's personal passions during these years reflected the same synthesis of traditional and modern influences that characterized his estate's architecture. His collection of classical music recordings had grown to encompass over 10,000 albums, carefully cataloged and stored in climate-controlled facilities beneath the mansion. However, his greatest pride was Sony's contribution to recording technology advancement, working with renowned conductors and musicians to develop equipment that could capture and reproduce classical music with unprecedented fidelity. The estate's music room became an informal laboratory where Morita, working with Sony's engineering teams, refined audio equipment through direct collaboration with world-class performers. Herbert von Karajan, the legendary conductor of the Berlin Philharmonic, spent 3 weeks at the mansion in 1981, working with Sony engineers to develop digital recording techniques that would revolutionize classical music production. These sessions, conducted in the estate's acoustically perfect environment, demonstrated Morita's belief that technology should serve art rather than dominate it. Community engagement through the estate reflected Morita's understanding that Sony's success carried responsibilities beyond commercial achievement. The mansion regularly hosted fundraising events for causes ranging from international education exchange to disaster relief efforts. During the 1970s energy crisis, Morita opened the estate's gardens to Tokyo residents for cultural events that demonstrated how traditional Japanese aesthetics could coexist with modern environmental consciousness. These public programs, though limited in scope to preserve family privacy, established Morita's reputation as a business leader committed to social responsibility. The international business conducted at the estate during these peak years shaped strategies that would influence global technology development for decades. Sony's expansion into motion picture production, its development of compact disc technology, and its creation of the PlayStation gaming system all emerged from conversations and strategic planning sessions held within the mansion's serene environment. Government officials from across Asia, seeking to understand Japan's economic success, regularly visited the estate for private meetings, where Morita shared his philosophy of combining technological innovation with cultural sensitivity. Yet beneath the celebration and achievement, subtle signs were beginning to suggest that even paradise could not last forever. In 1988, Morita began experiencing occasional episodes of fatigue that he attributed to his demanding international travel schedule. His doctor, conducting annual health examinations in the mansion's private medical facility, noted minor irregularities that seemed insignificant at the time, but would later prove to be early warnings of the stroke that would change everything. But these concerns remained hidden beneath the surface of continued triumph. As 1990 dawned, with Sony's global influence at its peak, and the estate serving as an unofficial embassy for Japanese technological achievement, few could have predicted that within just a few years, everything would change in ways that would test both Morita's resilience and his family's ability to preserve the legacy he had built. Chapter 5: Health Decline. The year 1993 should have been another year of triumph for Akio Morita and Sony Corporation. The company's revenues had reached record levels, exceeding $34 billion annually, while their entertainment divisions had established Sony as a dominant force in both electronics manufacturing and content creation. The PlayStation gaming system was entering final development stages, and preliminary market research suggested it would revolutionize home entertainment as dramatically as the Walkman had transformed portable music consumption. At 72, Morita remained actively involved in Sony's strategic planning, traveling frequently between Tokyo, New York, and Los Angeles to oversee the company's increasingly complex global operations. By all measures, Morita had achieved everything he had dreamed of during his youth in Nagoya's traditional sake brewery. Sony's market capitalization exceeded $60 billion, making it one of Japan's most valuable corporations and a symbol of the nation's technological prowess. The Shibuya estate had become internationally famous as a center for East-West business collaboration, regularly hosting dignitaries, celebrities, and industry leaders who sought Morita's guidance on technology trends and international market development. Recent achievements included successful launches of Sony's first portable compact disc player and significant expansion of their motion picture production capabilities. Yet beneath this surface of continued success, warning signs had been accumulating for several years. Morita's legendary energy, which had sustained him through decades of 18-hour workdays and constant international travel, had begun showing subtle but concerning fluctuations. His wife Yoshiko, more attuned to changes in his daily routines than anyone else, had noticed that he occasionally struggled to recall names of longtime business associates and sometimes appeared confused during telephone conversations with Sony executives in different time zones. The warning signs manifested most clearly in Morita's relationship with the estate's carefully maintained routines. For 20 years, he had begun each morning with traditional tea ceremony in the Eastern Pavilion, a ritual that connected him to Japanese cultural heritage while preparing his mind for the day's business challenges. However, during the summer of 1993, Yoshiko began noticing that these morning sessions occasionally left him appearing disoriented rather than centered, as though the precise movements and meditative focus that had once energized him now required effort that depleted rather than restored his mental clarity. Others within Sony's executive leadership had begun expressing private concerns about Morita's occasional confusion during board meetings and strategic planning sessions. While his fundamental business instincts remained sharp, Colleagues noticed that he sometimes lost track of complex technological discussions or forgot decisions made during previous meetings. These episodes, initially dismissed as normal consequences of aging and overwork, gradually became more frequent and more concerning to family members and close business associates who understood how crucial Morita's leadership remained to Sony's continued success. The decision that would prove most consequential came during autumn 1993, when Morita chose to maintain his demanding international travel schedule despite increasing fatigue and occasional episodes of confusion. His reasoning was logical. Sony's expansion into global entertainment markets required personal attention from the company's co-founder, and important negotiations with Hollywood studios could not be postponed without risking competitive disadvantage. Against his family's concerns and his personal physician's advice, he committed to a 3-week business trip covering Los Angeles, New York, and London during November 1993. The logic behind this decision seemed reasonable given Sony's strategic priorities and Morita's historical pattern of personal involvement in crucial business negotiation. For decades, his hands-on leadership style had been essential to Sony's success, particularly in international markets where his personal relationships with industry leaders often determined the outcome of complex business arrangements. The entertainment industry partnerships that Sony had developed, worth billions of dollars in potential revenue, required ongoing cultivation through face-to-face meetings and social interactions that could not be delegated to subordinates. Alternative approaches had been considered and rejected during family discussions at the estate. Yoshiko had suggested reducing the scope of international travel or delegating more responsibility to Sony's younger executives, but Morita remained convinced that his personal involvement was irreplaceable for maintaining Sony's competitive advantage. His reasoning reflected both legitimate business concerns and the perfectionist tendencies that had driven his entire career. No one else possessed his combination of technical knowledge, cultural sensitivity, and relationship-building skills necessary for navigating complex international business arrangements. The collapse began on November 30, 1993, during a tennis match at the Tokyo American Club, where Morita had been playing regularly for over 15 years. The tennis court where he had entertained business associates and maintained physical fitness became the site where everything changed forever. According to witnesses present that afternoon, Morita appeared to be playing normally when he suddenly stopped mid-serve, confusion evident in his expression, before collapsing unconsciously onto the court surface. The stroke that devastated Morita's brain occurred at 2:47 p.m. Tokyo time, witnessed by 3 tennis partners who immediately summoned emergency medical assistance. Within minutes, an ambulance arrived to transport him to Toranomon Hospital, where Sony maintained corporate medical arrangements for executive healthcare. Initial diagnosis revealed a massive cerebrovascular accident affecting areas of the brain responsible for speech, memory, and motor coordination. Neurosurgeons who examined him estimated that significant portions of brain tissue had been permanently damaged, though the full extent of cognitive impairment would not become clear for several weeks. The immediate aftermath devastated both Sony's stock price and the carefully maintained tranquility of the Shibuya estate. Within hours of Morita's hospitalization, financial markets reacted to news that Sony's co-founder and spiritual leader had suffered a serious medical emergency. Stock prices dropped 12% in Tokyo trading before being temporarily suspended, while international markets showed similar volatility as investors struggled to assess how Morita's condition might affect Sony's future strategic direction. For Yoshiko and their children, the stroke transformed the estate from a center of international business activity into a private sanctuary focused entirely on medical care and family support. The mansion's entertainment facilities, which had hosted world leaders and celebrities just weeks earlier, were reconfigured to accommodate medical equipment and rehabilitation specialists. The music room where Morita had refined Sony's audio technology became a physical therapy space where he would struggle to regain basic motor functions. Within days, the man who had built Sony into a global technology leader faced the reality that his career of revolutionary achievement had ended abruptly and permanently. The estate that had symbolized Japanese technological triumph became a place where Morita would spend his remaining years learning to perform tasks that he had once accomplished effortlessly. Speaking simple sentences, recognizing familiar faces, and maintaining basic physical coordination. Chapter 6: Final Years. The stroke that devastated Akio Morita on November 30, 1993, stripped away nearly everything he had accumulated over 7 decades of intellectual and creative achievement. The brilliant mind that had conceived the Walkman and guided Sony's transformation from a small Tokyo workshop into a global technology empire was reduced to struggling with basic cognitive functions that most people perform unconsciously. Yet within this tragedy lay profound testament to the enduring power of family loyalty, cultural tradition, and the human capacity to find meaning even when life's grandest ambitions have been permanently destroyed. What remained after the stroke was simultaneously heartbreaking and remarkable. Physically, Morita retained most motor functions, though his right side showed significant weakness that would require months of rehabilitation to improve. His ability to recognize family members fluctuated unpredictably. Some days he would greet Yashiko with the warmth and recognition of a husband of 40 years, while other days he would stare at her with polite confusion, as though meeting a stranger who somehow seemed familiar. Most devastating for a man whose career had depended on precise communication and strategic thinking, his speech became severely impaired, reducing complex business concepts and sophisticated cultural observations to fragmentary phrases that often made little logical sense. The mansion that had once buzzed with international business activity transformed into a carefully managed medical facility designed to provide Morita with optimal conditions for potential recovery. The music room where he had refined Sony's audio technology was converted into a physical therapy space, equipped with specialized equipment for stroke rehabilitation. The formal dining room where he had entertained world leaders became a quiet family space where meals could be adapted to his changing nutritional needs and eating difficulties. Most poignantly, the traditional tea ceremony pavilion, where he had begun each morning for 20 years, was modified to accommodate his wheelchair and cognitive limitations. Though family members maintained hope that familiar rituals might stimulate memory recovery, daily life after the stroke followed routines that bore little resemblance to Morita's former existence as an international business leader and cultural bridge between East and West. Each morning began not with reviewing international newspapers and strategic planning, but with basic cognitive exercises designed to maintain whatever mental function remained accessible. Speech therapy sessions, conducted by specialists who traveled to the estate 3 times weekly, focused on helping him recover the ability to express simple needs and recognize familiar objects. Physical therapy, initially conducted in the mansion's converted music room and later in the garden when weather permitted, aimed to restore basic mobility and prevent the muscle deterioration common among stroke victims. Yashiko's transformation from international hostess to full-time caregiver demonstrated both the strength of their marriage and the cultural values that had shaped their life together. Rather than hiring institutional care or relocating Morita to a medical facility, she chose to maintain their home as a place of healing and dignity, where he could retain connection to familiar surroundings that might stimulate recovery. Her daily routine became entirely focused on his needs, managing medical appointments, coordinating with rehabilitation specialists, adapting meals to his swallowing difficulties, and most importantly, providing the emotional support that kept him connected to his identity despite devastating cognitive losses. The relationship with their children during these years revealed both the protective strength of family bonds and the particular challenges that confront families when a powerful patriarch becomes dependent on others for basic survival needs. Hideo, their eldest son, had followed his father into Sony's executive leadership, but now found himself managing both corporate responsibilities and family medical crises. The estate that had been a symbol of achievement and cultural sophistication became a place where adult children had to witness their father's gradual disconnection from the world he had helped to shape, while simultaneously maintaining hope for recovery that medical experts suggested was increasingly unlikely. Sony Corporation's response to Morita's incapacitation demonstrated both the company's institutional strength and the irreplaceable nature of his personal leadership. While day-to-day operations continued smoothly under the guidance of other executives, strategic decision-making became more cautious and conventional without Morita's visionary influence. The entertainment industry partnerships that he had cultivated through personal relationships gradually shifted toward more formal business arrangements managed by committees rather than individual leadership. Most significantly, Sony's reputation for breakthrough innovation began to slow as the company focused more on refining existing products rather than pursuing the revolutionary concepts that had defined Morita's approach to technology development. Community reaction to Morita's condition reflected the genuine respect and affection he had earned beyond the business world. The estate began receiving thousands of letters from Sony employees, business associates, and cultural figures who wanted to express gratitude for his contributions to Japanese technological achievement and international understanding. These messages, carefully screened by family members for content that might provide comfort rather than distress, were read aloud during quiet evening hours when Morita appeared most responsive to familiar voices and positive emotions. Despite severe cognitive limitations, occasional moments of clarity provided glimpses of the remarkable mind that had once guided Sony's global expansion. During family gatherings, particularly when classical music was playing, Morita would sometimes demonstrate recognition of specific compositions and even attempt to conduct imaginary orchestras with movements that suggested retained memory for musical structure and emotional content. These episodes, though brief and unpredictable, offered family members hope that essential aspects of his personality and intellect remained accessible beneath the stroke's devastating effects. The most profound resilience emerged through Morita's relationship with the traditional elements of Japanese culture that had always provided him with spiritual grounding. Though he could no longer perform tea ceremony with the precision that had once connected him to centuries of cultural tradition, he appeared to find comfort in the familiar sounds, scents, and visual patterns associated with these ancient rituals. The estate's gardens, which he had designed to reflect the harmony between natural beauty and technological achievement, seemed to provide emotional comfort that transcended his cognitive limitations and connected him to values that remained meaningful despite his inability to express them verbally. By early 1999, medical specialists who had monitored Morita's condition for over 5 years began acknowledging that further recovery was unlikely and that his health was entering a phase of gradual decline. The man who had once traveled constantly between Tokyo, New York, and Los Angeles rarely left the estate's protective environment, finding comfort in familiar surroundings and family routines that provided stability amid the confusion created by his damaged brain. As autumn approached, bringing with it the changing seasons he had always found beautiful in the mansion's carefully maintained gardens, both family members and medical advisors understood that their time together was becoming precious and limited. Chapter 7: Last Breath. On October 3, 1999, death came quietly to Akio Morita in the bedroom where he had slept for over 24 years, surrounded by the serene beauty that had defined both his home and his approach to balancing technological innovation with cultural tradition. The end arrived at 4:32 a.m. Tokyo time, as the first pale light of dawn began filtering through the traditional shoji screens that had been carefully maintained according to his original architectural specifications. At 78 years old, nearly 6 years after the stroke had ended his active involvement in Sony's leadership, Morita died peacefully in his sleep from complications related to pneumonia that had developed despite the careful medical attention he had received throughout his long decline. Yoshiko, who had maintained a vigil beside his bed for 3 days as his breathing became increasingly labored, was holding his hand when his heart stopped beating. Their eldest son Hideo had arrived at the estate just hours before, summoned by doctors who recognized that Morita's condition had deteriorated beyond medical intervention. The bedroom, which had been modified over the years to accommodate medical equipment while preserving its essential character as a place of rest and reflection, felt completely peaceful in those final moments. Filled with the soft sounds of the garden fountains and the distant morning prayers from a nearby temple that had marked the rhythm of their days for over 2 decades. The immediate aftermath of Morita's death unfolded with the careful dignity that had characterized his entire approach to life and business. Yoshiko, though devastated by the loss of her husband of 47 years, maintained the composed strength that had sustained their family throughout his illness. Her first telephone calls went to their children and to Sony's current executive leadership, ensuring that both family and corporate responsibilities were handled with appropriate sensitivity. Within hours, the estate became a carefully managed center for coordinating funeral arrangements, media communications, and the complex logistics of honoring a man whose influence had extended far beyond Japan's borders. The news of Morita's death spread rapidly through international financial markets and technology industry networks that had followed his condition since the 1993 stroke. Sony's stock price initially dropped in Tokyo trading as investors absorbed news that the company's co-founder and spiritual leader had died. Though the decline was modest compared to market reactions 6 years earlier, when his stroke had first raised questions about Sony's future leadership stability. Major newspapers worldwide began preparing obituaries that would chronicle his transformation from sake-brewery heir to global technology pioneer, emphasizing his role in establishing Japan as a serious competitor in international electronics markets. Funeral planning reflected the same careful balance between tradition and modernity that had defined Morita's entire life and career. The family chose to hold services at Zujoji Temple in Tokyo, a prestigious Buddhist temple that had conducted funeral rites for Japanese leaders for over 4 centuries. The ceremony, scheduled for October 8, would combine traditional Buddhist rituals with modern elements acknowledging Morita's international influence and Sony's global reach. These arrangements required coordination with diplomatic officials from multiple countries, technology industry leaders from across Asia, Europe, and North America, and media organizations seeking to document the end of an era in Japanese business history. The service itself reflected both the intimate scale appropriate for family mourning and the public significance of honoring a figure whose vision had influenced global technology development for over 5 decades. Over 800 mourners attended, including current Sony executives, former business partners, government officials, and cultural figures who had known Morita personally or had been influenced by his work. The eulogy, delivered by Sony's current president Nobuaki Idai, emphasized Morita's unique contribution to building bridges between Japanese culture and international business practices, while Buddhist monks conducted traditional ceremonies that connected his death to centuries of spiritual tradition. Among those who attended the funeral, the presence of competitors and business rivals demonstrated the genuine respect Morita had earned within the technology industry. Representatives from Matsushita, Toshiba, and other Japanese electronics companies that had competed fiercely with Sony for market share came to pay respects to a leader whose innovative vision had elevated the entire industry's reputation for quality and creativity. American executives from companies ranging from IBM to Disney, many of whom had negotiated complex business arrangements with Morita over the years, traveled to Tokyo specifically to honor his memory and acknowledge his role in shaping modern global business relationships. The most touching tributes came from individuals whose careers had been personally influenced by Morita's mentorship and example. Engineers who had worked with him during Sony's early years spoke of his ability to inspire technical innovation through clear vision and patient encouragement. International business leaders credited him with demonstrating how cultural sensitivity could enhance rather than complicate global commercial relationships. Musicians and artists who had benefited from Sony's recording technology development remembered his genuine appreciation for creative excellence and his commitment to technology that served artistic rather than purely commercial purposes. Following the funeral ceremony, Morita was buried at Zujoji Temple's cemetery in a traditional Buddhist ceremony that emphasized the spiritual transition from earthly achievement to eternal peace. The burial site, marked by a simple stone monument that listed his birth and death dates without elaborate description of his accomplishments, reflected his personal philosophy that genuine achievement speaks for itself without requiring extensive public proclamation. Family members, following Japanese custom, would return to the grave site regularly to maintain flowers and incense, while honoring his memory through continued commitment to the values he had embodied throughout his life. The will, read privately to family members following the funeral, distributed Morita's estate according to plans he had established several years before his stroke, ensuring that both family financial security and charitable commitments would be maintained according to his wishes. The total estate, valued at approximately 12 billion yen including the Shibuya mansion, Sony stock holdings, and personal collections, reflected decades of successful business leadership, while avoiding the ostentatious display that might have seemed inappropriate for someone who had always emphasized substance over superficial show. Special provisions ensured that the estate's classical music collection and audio equipment would be donated to educational institutions that could use them for training future generations of musicians and engineers. The Tokyo mansion itself, according to provisions in Morita's will, would remain in family ownership for at least 10 years, providing Yoshiko with familiar surroundings during her adjustment to life, without the husband who had shared her commitment to balancing traditional Japanese values with international perspective. The decision to maintain the estate rather than selling it immediately reflected both practical financial considerations and emotional attachment to a home that had witnessed the most significant achievements of their life together. For Yoshiko and their children, preserving the mansion represented continuity with values and memories that remained meaningful despite the profound loss they had experienced. With Akio Morita's death, one of the most remarkable chapters in Japanese business history came to a quiet close, ending in the same spirit of dignity and cultural appreciation that had characterized his approach to life, innovation, and international leadership throughout 7 decades of extraordinary achievement. Chapter 8: Legacy Lives. Today, the Shibuya estate stands as a private residence still owned by the Morita family. Its traditional architecture and carefully maintained gardens serving as a quiet monument to one of Japan's most influential business leaders and cultural ambassadors. The mansion that Akio Morita built to symbolize Sony's global success has survived over 4 decades of Tokyo's rapid urban transformation. Its cedar gates and traditional roof lines providing a serene contrast to the gleaming office towers and commercial developments that have reshaped the surrounding Shibuya district beyond recognition. The physical estate remains largely unchanged from Morita's original architectural vision, though the underground technology facilities that once showcased Sony's latest innovations have been updated to reflect advances in digital entertainment and home automation systems. The music room where Morita collaborated with world-class musicians to refine Sony's audio equipment now features contemporary recording technology, while the traditional gardens continue to provide the same peaceful beauty that inspired his approach to harmonizing Eastern aesthetics with Western business practices. Visitors to the neighborhood, though unable to see beyond the estate's protective walls, can still observe the traditional architectural elements that made Morita's home distinctive among Tokyo's increasingly modern residential developments. Akio Morita continued living in the estate until her death in 2013, maintaining the cultural traditions and international perspective that had made their home a center for East-West understanding during Sony's golden years. Following her passing, the property passed to their children, who have preserved its essential character while adapting it for contemporary family use. The decision to maintain family ownership rather than selling the estate to developers or converting it for commercial use reflects the same commitment to long-term values over short-term financial gain that characterized Morita's approach to business leadership throughout his career. The irony of Morita's legacy extends far beyond the preservation of his family home to encompass the global influence of innovations that originated from his vision of technology serving human creativity and cultural exchange. Sony Corporation, the company he co-founded in a bombed-out Tokyo department store, has become a multinational entertainment and technology conglomerate with annual revenues exceeding $88 billion, employing over 110,000 people worldwide, and maintaining leadership positions in industries ranging from electronics manufacturing to motion picture production, video gaming, and music recording that Morita helped establish during the estate's golden years. The Walkman, perhaps Morita's most revolutionary contribution to popular culture, transformed not merely how people listen to music, but how they experience urban environments, personal space, and the relationship between technology and individual creativity. Though the original Walkman has been superseded by digital music players, smartphones, and streaming services, its fundamental concept, that technology should enhance rather than complicate personal enjoyment, continues to influence product development across the global technology industry. The portable entertainment culture that Morita pioneered now encompasses billions of people who carry sophisticated audio and video equipment in their pockets, validating his belief that miniaturization and user-friendly design could create entirely new categories of human experience. The principles that guided Morita's approach to international business, cultural sensitivity, long-term relationship building, and commitment to quality over purely financial consideration have become foundational elements of Japanese corporate strategy in global markets. His success in establishing Sony as the first Japanese brand to achieve worldwide recognition and respect demonstrated that companies from non-Western cultures could compete successfully against established European and American corporations without abandoning their cultural values or adopting purely Western business practices. This model has been emulated by subsequent generations of Japanese, Korean, Chinese, and other Asian companies that have followed Sony's path toward global market leadership. The story of Akio Morita and his Shibuya estate reminds us that true legacy is measured not in the accumulation of wealth or achievement of short-term success, but in the enduring influence of values, innovations, and examples that continue shaping human experience long after individual lives have ended. Morita's vision of technology that serves human creativity, rather than dominating it, has become increasingly relevant as society's worldwide struggle with the appropriate role of digital innovation in personal and cultural life. His commitment to bridging cultural Renses through business relationships based on mutual respect and shared interests, offers valuable guidance for contemporary global leaders navigating increasingly complex international challenges. Perhaps the most significant lesson from Morita's life and the estate he created lies in his demonstration that material success and cultural sophistication are not incompatible with humility, family loyalty, and commitment to values that transcend immediate commercial interests. The mansion that once hosted international dignitaries and business leaders was always fundamentally a family home, where traditional Japanese customs provided daily grounding for a man whose professional life required constant adaptation to changing global circumstances. This balance between public achievement and private authenticity enabled Morita to maintain perspective and integrity throughout a career that brought extraordinary pressures and temptations towards superficial display rather than substantial accomplishment. The house endures, silent and dignified, holding memories of conversations that shaped global technology development, of family celebrations that maintained cultural continuity amid rapid social change, and of quiet moments when a remarkable man found peace within traditional gardens that reminded him of values more enduring than any business achievement. Through decades spanning Japan's emergence as a global economic power, through technological revolutions that transformed human communication and entertainment, through personal triumph and devastating illness, through the passage from one generation to the next, the Shibuya estate has witnessed and preserved something essential about the relationship between individual vision and cultural heritage that continues to influence how we understand success, innovation, and the responsibility that accompanies great achievement. And if you ever find yourself in Tokyo's Shibuya district, walking among the commercial towers and entertainment complexes that represent contemporary Japanese urban energy, you might glimpse beyond traditional cedar gates the gardens and architectural elements that Akio Morita created to demonstrate that technology and tradition, global ambition and cultural integrity, material success and spiritual grounding could coexist in perfect harmony within the life of someone committed to serving purposes larger than immediate self-interest. Today, the Shibuya estate stands as a private residence still owned by the Morita family, its traditional architecture and carefully maintained gardens serving as a quiet monument to one of Japan's most influential business leaders and cultural ambassadors. The mansion that Akio Morita built to symbolize Sony's global success has survived over 4 decades of Tokyo's rapid urban transformation. Its cedar gates and traditional rooflines providing a serene contrast to the gleaming office towers and commercial developments that have reshaped the surrounding Shibuya district beyond recognition. The physical estate remains largely unchanged from Morita's original architectural vision, though the underground technology facilities that once showcased Sony's latest innovations have been updated to reflect advances in digital entertainment and home automation systems. The music room where Morita collaborated with world-class musicians to refine Sony's audio equipment now features contemporary recording technology, while the traditional gardens continue to provide the same peaceful beauty that inspired his approach to harmonizing Eastern aesthetics with Western business practices. Visitors to the neighborhood, though unable to see beyond the estate's protective walls, can still observe the traditional architectural elements that made Morita's home distinctive among Tokyo's increasingly modern residential developments. Yoshiko Morita's stewardship of the estate following her husband's death in 1999 demonstrated the same careful balance between preservation and adaptation that had characterized their approach to business and family life throughout their marriage. For 14 years, until her own death in 2013, she maintained the mansion not as a museum frozen in time, but as a living space where traditional Japanese customs continued to evolve while honoring the cultural foundation that had given their family strength during both triumph and tragedy. During these years, the estate became a quiet center for educational initiatives that reflected Morita's lifelong commitment to bridging cultural differences through shared appreciation of technology and art. Yashiko regularly hosted intimate gatherings for students from Tokyo's international schools, providing opportunities for young people from diverse cultural backgrounds to experience traditional Japanese aesthetics while learning about the business principles that had enabled Sony's global success. These programs, though limited in scope to preserve family privacy, created lasting connections between Japan and other cultures that continued the diplomatic mission Morita had pursued through his business relationships. The technological infrastructure within the mansion evolved significantly during this period, as Yashiko worked with Sony's engineering teams to update the estate's audio and visual systems while preserving the architectural integrity that made the property historically significant. The underground recording studios were equipped with digital technology that maintained the acoustic excellence Morita had demanded, while incorporating advances in sound reproduction that he had helped pioneer, but had not lived to see fully developed. These updates ensured that the estate remained a functional demonstration of Sony's technological capabilities, while honoring the aesthetic principles that had guided its original design. Following Yashiko's death in 2013, ownership of the estate passed to their children according to carefully planned arrangements that prioritized family unity and cultural preservation over immediate financial considerations. Akio Morita, who had succeeded his father in Sony's leadership hierarchy, assumed primary responsibility for maintaining the property, while his siblings retained ownership interests that ensured collective decision-making for any major changes to the estate's character or use. The decision to maintain family ownership rather than selling to developers or converting the property for commercial use reflected values that extended beyond sentimental attachment to include genuine understanding of the estate's significance as cultural heritage. Real estate analysts estimated that the property's development potential could generate over $200 million through high-rise construction. Yet the family's commitment to preservation demonstrated the same long-term perspective that had characterized Morita's approach to business leadership throughout his career. The Sony Corporation that Morita co-founded in 1946 has evolved far beyond its origins as an electronics manufacturer to become one of the world's most diversified entertainment and technology conglomerates. With annual revenues exceeding $88 billion as of 2024, Sony employs over 110,000 people across divisions ranging from consumer electronics and gaming to motion picture production, music recording, and financial services. This transformation reflects the strategic vision that Morita articulated during the estate's golden years, when he predicted that successful technology companies would need to integrate hardware manufacturing with content creation to maintain competitive advantage in global markets. The PlayStation gaming division, which emerged from concepts discussed during strategy sessions at the Shibuya estate, has become Sony's most profitable business segment, generating over $25 billion in annual revenue while establishing the company as the dominant force in home video game entertainment. The PlayStation 5, released in 2020, continues the legacy of innovation that Morita championed, combining advanced technology with user-friendly design principles that make sophisticated entertainment accessible to mainstream consumers worldwide. Sony's entertainment divisions, including Sony Pictures Entertainment and Sony Music Entertainment, represent the fulfillment of Morita's vision for vertical integration between technology and content creation. The company's film studios have produced Academy Award-winning movies, while its music division represents artists whose recordings reach billions of listeners through streaming services that depend on audio technology, descended from innovations developed during Morita's leadership. This integration of hardware and software capabilities validates the strategic approach that Morita pioneered when he insisted that Sony must control both the devices that reproduce entertainment and the content that defines popular culture. The challenges that Sony has faced in recent decades, including competition from South Korean manufacturers, the disruption of traditional entertainment distribution models, and the need to adapt to mobile computing and streaming services, reflect the same types of strategic transitions that Morita navigated during his career. His emphasis on cultural adaptation, technological innovation, and long-term relationship building has provided institutional wisdom that continues guiding Sony's leadership through rapidly changing global markets. Perhaps most significantly, Sony's approach to international business development continues reflecting principles that Morita established during the estate's era as an informal embassy for Japanese Western business cooperation. The company's success in maintaining market leadership across diverse cultural environments, from North American gaming markets to European audio equipment sales to Asian mobile entertainment services, demonstrates the enduring relevance of Morita's belief that technology companies must understand and respect cultural differences rather than imposing uniform global strategies. The cultural impact of Morita's Walkman concept extends far beyond its commercial success to encompass fundamental changes in how human beings experience urban environments, personal space, and the relationship between individual identity and shared community experiences. Launched in 1979, following extensive development work that included prototype testing within the estate's acoustic facilities, the Walkman created the first truly personal entertainment device that allowed individuals to carry customized soundtracks for their daily lives while maintaining mobility and social interaction capabilities. The psychological and social implications of portable personal entertainment proved far more significant than anyone anticipated during the Walkman's initial development. Urban sociologists studying cities like Tokyo, New York, and London observed that Walkman users developed new patterns of public behavior, creating individual sound environments that provided psychological privacy within crowded metropolitan spaces. This transformation enabled millions of people to personalize anonymous urban experiences while maintaining connection to broader cultural trends through shared music and entertainment content. The technological evolution from analog Walkman devices to digital music players, smartphones, and streaming services represents a direct lineage of innovation that validates Morita's fundamental insight about the relationship between miniaturization and market expansion. Each generation of portable entertainment technology has maintained the core principle that Morita established. Devices should enhance rather than complicate human experience, providing sophisticated capabilities through interfaces simple enough for intuitive operation. Contemporary technology companies ranging from Apple and Samsung to Chinese manufacturers like Xiaomi and Huawei have built business strategies on foundations that Morita established when he insisted that successful consumer electronics must combine advanced engineering with aesthetic design that appeals to mainstream users rather than technical specialists. The emphasis on industrial design, user experience optimization, and global marketing that characterizes today's technology industry reflects lessons that Morita learned through decades of international business development and cultural bridge building. The streaming music services that have largely replaced physical media and download sales operate on distribution models that fulfill predictions Morita made during the 1980s about the eventual convergence of telecommunications, computing, and entertainment technologies. His vision of global entertainment networks delivering customized content to individual users through sophisticated but user-friendly devices anticipated developments that required another 4 decades of technological advancement to achieve practical implementation. Morita's contribution to international business relations extended beyond Sony's commercial success to encompass genuine advancement of cross-cultural understanding between Japan and Western nations during a period when economic competition often generated political tension and cultural misunderstanding. His approach to international business development, which emphasized personal relationships, cultural sensitivity, and shared appreciation for technological innovation and artistic excellence, created templates for global business cooperation that remain relevant in contemporary international commerce. The educational initiatives that Morita supported through the estate's programs and Sony's corporate philanthropy helped establish exchange relationships between Japanese universities and international institutions that continue producing leaders in technology development, business management, and cultural diplomacy. These programs, which brought thousands of students and professionals to Japan, while sending Japanese participants to universities and companies worldwide, created personal connections that transcended political and economic rivalries between nations. The business practices that Morita pioneered, including long-term partnership development, investment in local market understanding, and commitment to quality standards that served customer needs rather than short-term profit maximization, influenced entire generations of Japanese executives who followed Sony's example in establishing global business operations. Companies ranging from Toyota and Honda to Nintendo and SoftBank have adapted Morita's strategies for international expansion while maintaining Japanese cultural values and management approaches. Contemporary challenges in international business relations, including trade disputes, technological competition, and cultural misunderstanding between Asian and Western societies, continue requiring the type of patient relationship building and cross-cultural communication skills that Morita demonstrated throughout his career. His example of maintaining Japanese cultural identity while achieving success in global markets offers valuable guidance for current business leaders navigating increasingly complex international political and economic environments. The technological cooperation between Japanese companies and international partners that Morita helped establish has produced innovations ranging from hybrid automotive systems to advanced semiconductor manufacturing that address global challenges including environmental sustainability and economic development. These collaborative relationships, built on foundations of mutual respect and shared technical excellence that Morita championed, demonstrate the continuing relevance of his approach to international business development. The preservation of Morita's estate within Tokyo's rapidly developing Shibuya district represents broader questions about architectural heritage, urban planning, and the relationship between individual achievement and community cultural preservation that extend far beyond single-family property decisions. The mansion's survival as a traditional Japanese residence amid commercial and high-rise development reflects policy choices about historical preservation, zoning regulations, and the values that urban communities choose to maintain despite economic pressures for maximizing development density. Tokyo's approach to balancing historical preservation with urban modernization has been influenced by examples like the Morita estate, which demonstrate how traditional architecture can coexist with contemporary development while maintaining cultural continuity and aesthetic diversity within rapidly changing neighborhoods. Urban planners studying sustainable development models have identified the estate's integration of traditional design with modern infrastructure as an example of adaptive preservation that maintains cultural heritage while accommodating contemporary lifestyle requirements. The architectural techniques that Morita employed in combining traditional Japanese design with advanced technology infrastructure have influenced subsequent residential and commercial projects throughout Japan and internationally. The concept of hidden technological systems that enhance rather than dominate architectural aesthetics has become standard practice in high-end residential design, while the integration of natural landscape elements with built environments reflects principles that Morita pioneered in creating the estate's gardens and interior spaces. The economic impact of preserving architecturally significant properties like the Morita estate extends beyond individual property values to encompass neighborhood character, tourism development, and cultural education opportunities that benefit broader community interests. Studies of Tokyo's historical preservation policies suggest that maintaining architectural diversity contributes to urban vitality and cultural sustainability that supports both economic development and quality of life for residents and visitors. Contemporary architects and urban planners studying sustainable development models have identified the estate's approach to integrating traditional aesthetics with modern functionality as a template for projects that respect cultural heritage while accommodating technological advancement and environmental responsibility. These principles have informed residential developments throughout Asia and internationally, where rapid economic growth creates pressure for architectural modernization that risks destroying cultural continuity. The innovation principles that guided Morita's approach to product development continue influencing contemporary technology companies facing challenges that echo those Sony confronted during its emergence as a global electronics leader. His emphasis on user-centered design, aesthetic integration, and cultural adaptation has become foundational to technology companies ranging from established corporations like Apple and Google to emerging companies developing artificial intelligence, virtual reality, and sustainable technology solutions. The research methodologies that Sony developed under Morita's leadership, including direct collaboration with artists and musicians, extensive prototype testing in real-world environments, and integration of technical advancement with market research, have been adopted by technology companies worldwide as standard practices for product development. The estate's role as an informal laboratory where engineers, artists, and business leaders could collaborate in developing entertainment technology established models for innovation that continue influencing how contemporary companies approach research and development. Morita's insistence that technology should enhance rather than complicate human experience has become increasingly relevant as societies worldwide grapple with the appropriate role of digital innovation in personal and professional life. His approach to developing technology that serves human creativity and cultural expression offers guidance for contemporary debates about artificial intelligence, social media, and digital privacy that require balancing technological capability with human values and social responsibility. The business strategies that enabled Sony's transformation from a small Tokyo workshop to a global technology leader provide case studies for contemporary entrepreneurs and established companies seeking to achieve sustainable growth while maintaining cultural identity and ethical principles. Morita's combination of technical innovation, market development, and cultural sensitivity offers templates for business development that remain applicable across diverse industries and international markets. Perhaps the most enduring aspect of Morita's legacy lies in his demonstration that material success and technological achievement are compatible with humility, family loyalty, and commitment to values that transcend immediate commercial interests. The mansion that hosted international dignitaries and shaped global business relationships remained fundamentally a family home, where traditional Japanese customs provided daily grounding for a leader whose professional responsibilities required constant adaptation to changing global circumstances. This integration of public achievement with private authenticity enabled Morita to maintain perspective and integrity throughout a career that brought extraordinary pressures towards superficial display rather than substantial accomplishment. His approach to leadership, combining visionary thinking with attention to operational detail, global ambition with cultural sensitivity, technological innovation with aesthetic appreciation, offers guidance for contemporary leaders facing complex challenges that require both strategic thinking and personal character. The family values that sustained Morita through decades of international travel, business pressures, and technological change demonstrate the importance of maintaining personal relationships and cultural connections that provide stability amid rapid professional and social transformation. His commitment to marriage, parenthood, and extended family relationships while pursuing global business leadership suggests that personal fulfillment and professional achievement need not be incompatible when approached with wisdom and planning. The educational philosophy that guided Morita's approach to developing both Sony's workforce and his own children emphasizes continuous learning, cultural curiosity, and technical competence combined with ethical principles and aesthetic appreciation. These educational priorities, which balance traditional Japanese values with international perspectives, produced leaders who could navigate complex global challenges while maintaining cultural identity and personal integrity. The estate's approach to integrating natural landscape elements with architectural design and technological infrastructure anticipated contemporary concerns about environmental sustainability and the relationship between human development and natural ecosystem preservation. Morita's insistence on maintaining traditional gardens, using natural materials, and minimizing environmental impact during construction reflected values that have become central to sustainable development practices worldwide. The energy-efficient design principles that Morita incorporated into the estate's technological systems, including passive climate control, efficient lighting, and integrated renewable energy sources, demonstrated approaches to luxury residential development that minimize environmental impact while maintaining sophisticated functionality and aesthetic quality. These techniques have influenced subsequent residential and commercial projects throughout Japan and internationally. Sony's corporate environmental policies, which emerged from values that Morita established during his leadership, have positioned the company as an industry leader in sustainable manufacturing, waste reduction, and environmental responsibility that extends beyond regulatory compliance to encompass genuine commitment to global environmental stewardship. These policies reflect understanding that long-term business success depends on environmental sustainability and corporate responsibility. The story of Akio Morita and his Shibuya estate ultimately reminds us that individual vision, cultural wisdom, and ethical leadership can create influence that extends far beyond immediate circumstances to shape global developments for decades after individual lives have ended. The principles that guided Morita's approach to business development, technological innovation, and international relationships continue providing guidance for contemporary challenges that require both strategic thinking and cultural sensitivity. The house endures, silent and dignified, holding memories of conversations that shaped global technology development, of family celebrations that maintained cultural continuity amid rapid social change, and of quiet moments when a remarkable leader found peace within traditional gardens that reminded him of values more enduring than any business achievement. Through decades spanning Japan's emergence as a global economic power, through technological revolutions that transformed human communication and entertainment, through personal triumph and devastating illness, through the passage from one generation to the next, the Shibuya estate has witnessed and preserved something essential about the relationship between individual vision and cultural heritage that continues influencing how we understand success, innovation, and the responsibility that accompanies great achievement. And if you ever find yourself in Tokyo's Shibuya district, walking among the commercial towers and entertainment complexes that represent contemporary Japanese urban energy, you might glimpse beyond traditional cedar, gates the gardens and architectural elements that Akio Morita created to demonstrate that technology and tradition, global ambition and cultural integrity, material success and spiritual grounding could coexist in perfect harmony within the life of someone committed to serving purposes larger than immediate self-interest. The estate stands as more than architectural preservation or family heritage. It represents proof that human achievement at its highest level creates legacy not through accumulation of wealth or power, but through contributions to human knowledge, cultural understanding, and technological advancement that continue benefiting humanity long after individual lives have concluded. In an age when technology companies often prioritize rapid growth over sustainable development, when international business relationships are increasingly complicated by political tensions, and when innovation sometimes seems disconnected from human values and cultural wisdom, Morita's example offers both inspiration and practical guidance for leaders seeking to achieve meaningful success while maintaining personal integrity and social responsibility. That is the complete story of Sony's family empire mansion, Akio Morita's estate, a tale of how one man's vision transformed not merely a Japanese electronics company into a global technology leader, but how his approach to balancing tradition with innovation, cultural identity with international ambition, and personal values with professional achievement created influence that continues shaping our understanding of leadership, innovation, and the relationship between individual success and broader human progress.